Haiti's descent into gang violence didn't happen overnight. Behind today's headlines of gang-controlled streets lies a complex history that many prefer to forget. Did the roots of Haiti's current gang crisis begin with President Jean-Bertrand Aristide's second administration? The answer challenges our understanding of Haiti's recent history. Historical context. Aristide's return to power in 2001 occurred amid intense political polarization. After his controversial election victory, opposition forces immediately challenged his legitimacy. This period followed years of international intervention, including a U.S.-led military operation that restored Aristide to power in 1994 after the 1991 coup. By his second term, Haiti's political landscape had become a battlefield between pro-Aristide supporters and opposition forces backed by domestic elites and foreign interests. The rise of armed groups. During Aristide's second presidency, armed groups known as chimères emerged as political actors. While Aristide's opponents claimed he deliberately created these groups, supporters argued they formed organically in impoverished neighborhoods as self-defense units against opposition violence. The most notorious was the cannibal army based in Gonaïves, led by Amiot Métayer, who initially supported Aristide. Allegations and evidence. Human rights organizations documented attacks by pro-Aristide gangs against opposition rallies, journalists, and critics. In 2002-2003, organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International reported incidents where armed Aristide supporters disrupted opposition demonstrations. Meanwhile, Métayer publicly claimed to have received weapons and financial support from Aristide's government before their relationship deteriorated. The complexity of control. The reality was more nuanced than either side admitted. While some armed groups received support from politicians, many operated with significant autonomy. The chimères weren't a unified force under centralized control, but rather loosely affiliated groups with varying motivations. Some genuinely supported Aristide's populist agenda, while others exploited political protection to engage in extortion and criminal activities. Métayer's murder and aftermath. When Amiot Métayer was found murdered in September 2003, his supporters blamed Aristide. The cannibal army, renamed the Artibonite Resistance Front, turned against Aristide and joined the uprising that eventually forced him from power in February 2004. This betrayal demonstrated the fragile nature of political gang alliances and foreshadowed future patterns of shifting loyalties. Present-day impact. The legacy of this period continues to shape Haiti today. After Aristide's removal, many armed groups fragmented further, creating power vacuums in urban neighborhoods. The tactics of using armed civilians for political purposes became normalized across the political spectrum. This pattern created the foundation for today's crisis, where gangs like G9 and G-PEP, or so-called Vive Ensemble, control large portions of Port-au-Prince and other areas with connections to various political and elites actors. The key difference between then and now is the level of autonomy. While earlier gangs maintained some political alignment, today's armed groups have achieved unprecedented independence and territorial control, effectively replacing state functions in many areas. What began as political instruments has evolved into power centers that politicians must now negotiate with rather than command. Understanding this history is crucial for addressing Haiti's current crisis. The simplistic narrative of Aristide's association with gangs ignores both earlier patterns of political violence and the responsibility of those who ousted him without establishing functioning security institutions. Every Haitian government post-1986 until today, along with international actors, bears responsibility for failing to disarm these groups and address the conditions of poverty, vulnerability, and injustice that fuel their recruitment. We must reject simplified narratives that serve political agendas rather than historical truth. Haiti's gang crisis represents a systemic failure that transcends any single administration. Without any doubt, some gang groups have terrorized Haitian people since 1991, like chimeras, zinglindo, and, unfortunately, accumulated more power today due to corrupt politicians and elites. Only by honestly confronting this complex history can we begin the work of dismantling the structures that perpetuate violence and instability. We must find a solution to this epidemic of violence. If this history resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe to Haiti Diaspora Voice. Check the link in my bio for sources and further reading. Join our movement for historical truth and collective awakening. Haiti's future depends on understanding its past and planning for its future.